Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Pretty's Alive with me, your host, Warren Werbitt. Always appreciate when you show up to listen and watch. Today, we have a super guest, not just special, but super. We got Clark Scherer here. How you doing, Clark?
Very good. How you doing this morning, Warren?
I am doing great, thank you. And today we got I'm going to say a groundbreaking session because we're going to announce something that you're doing that nobody's done before. And I'm pretty happy to be here to break it. But before we get there, let's just get into Clark. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you come from.
All right. So I'm a first generation American. My father immigrated to the U.S. to sell printing presses. So I'm, in the family business like most printers. A lot of us came because our fathers before us did it. So he started Baker Perkins in the U.S., which was a web manufacturer. And in the early 90s, they were bought out by Rockwell and then Goss. So he started his own business called WebPro. And so I grew up in the printing space, really the offset space. And so after I got out of college, I joined him for about a year or two and realized that the used equipment business that he was in was really not sort of my future. And so I interviewed at the manufacturers, and surprisingly, I ended up working for the Japanese. It seemed like the best place for me at the time, and joined Komori in 2006, and ended up there for about 20 years and really learned a lot, and obviously saw a shrinking of the business. When I started in 2006, Komori alone sold 132 machines just in North America that year. And, these days we're about 15 or 20 presses a year. And so back in January, I decided to start my own business with a couple business partners that I have, and decided to move on from Komori. They've been nothing but great to me, though. I did sign up because I found my replacement. So they hired me back for a little bit here. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm running my own business, and I'm helping integrate our new sales guy, Ryan Mitchell, into the territory.
Cool. So my first offset press that I ever bought after buying a couple duplicators was, I think it was 2000. Correct me. No, maybe it was 1992. Maybe I don't even know. The late 90s. It was a Komori Sprint two color 2020
Okay.
when they just came out.
Yeah.
And I remember it was Jacques Charbonneau who had the franchise multi-dick. It was a friend of my father's, and we actually bought the first Komori that he ever sold in I guess Canada.
And you ran that
So
press?
no, God, no, me.
Okay.
These hands have never seen anything because I didn't really want to get dirty. I mean, I was allowed to turn it on and off, but that was the extent of it. After that, they never let me touch any piece of equipment that I paid for.
Well, I'm
Prob-
sure that press is still running somewhere in the world. The good thing about the Komori product is it just they live on in every other country after their useful life here in North America.
and not just Komori, because my first larger press was a 2029 five color Mitsubishi that we
Okay.
ran for 20 years. And then that went off to the pasture, but is still running. And Japanese make great presses and they make great cars and a lot of other things.
Yeah, they've got
So
manufacturing down. They definitely do.
yeah, you got
But
to
I know you're a
actually when
big
I was
You're a big Kerning
sorry.
and Bauer guy. I've heard all your advertising. When it was time to buy your big press, you went for Kerning and Bauer.
Yeah, so to me they'll always be KBA because when you spend 5 million you get to call them what you want. But
Yeah.
yeah, when we did that press, I had two Mitsubishis actually before and bought a company that had a Heidelberg, but got rid of the Heidelberg right away, but we'll save that humor for another day. I was going oversized, and if you go oversized, there is only one manufacturer for oversized presses, right? And it's been proven. I mean, Heidelberg tried to get in and then they left and then they wanted to come back, but they keep doing things anyways, we're not going into Heidelberg, but
No.
that'll be for blooper day. But yeah, but my KBA, to this day, it's running somewhere. It's amazing. Those machines are just built for speed and volume and quality.
Yeah, they own that large format market. Obviously, as you've seen, it's just the manufacturers have had a tough time in the offset space, and you saw man Roland. is having troubles now as well, of a Langley Group who owns the sheet fed side of the business. And if you are looking at a machine of that size, I think it's pretty hard to go with any other manufacturer because these machines last 30 or 40 years now. And that's the truth. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start up my business. Most of my customers, they weren't calling to ask me about a new press. They were calling to ask me who supports this old chiller that they don't have anymore. Or how do I find parts for this UV system? On and on. It's the machines seem to last a lot longer than the accessories that the manufacturers put on them. And, I think it's half of the manufacturer's fault because, coming from a manufacturer, we just kept pushing our vendors to lower the price and lower the price. And I think we really drove them all out of business because, after a while, if everyone's focused on buying on price, it's hard to support products in the field. And, it's just very difficult. And so that's what I'm seeing today. A lot of my customers are having issues. I think the biggest problem that I'm seeing right now with my Komori side is, through the years from, 2002 on up, we equipped all of our presses with Nordson UV that was then bought by Baldwin, and Barry Waymiller ended up buying Baldwin, and then they bought Air Motion, and they
And they
conglomerated
killed
all
they
together.
killed they killed that one.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, maybe it's big news shock here, but coming in June, they are 100% closing up shop and they are not manufacturing anymore. They say they're going to support the products, but they've not shown that in the last 2 years of supporting them. So I've really stepped in with my partner, Victory Lamps USA, to kind of gear up and figure out how to support these products so that printers in the US, can keep their presses running. Because as you know, if your dryer is not working, your whole press isn't working. And most of the printers today, they have one press. They don't have 15 presses where they can have this redundancy. And,
Switch up.
we have to keep
You
it going.
you should reach out to Steve Metcalf if you
Oh
haven't
yeah, I know
already.
Steve. I know Steve very well. So my business partner is Mike Bates. Him, Steve, and Hans
Okay,
Uline.
okay. Oh yeah, no, so say no more.
Yeah, yep. They were Air Motion and they had a beautiful company. And again, private equity doesn't always kill everything, but it seems like in that space, they really bit off more than they can chew.
And I'm trying to hold in my smile, but private equity in the printing space does a pretty good job of killing a lot of stuff.
Does it does. I think it's
Like they see
easier if you
they see
yeah,
the
if you
money
look
and
at
then they
printing.
shred it,
Yeah, if you look
right?
at printing from afar, I believe that accountants look at it and they get their hands on it and they think, oh, if I'm doing X amount of sales and I'm making this margin, if I pump this much more money in, I can quadruple my margins. And they end up getting rid of all the people, actual people that knew what they were doing and were the business. And pretty soon, just the products don't live on. And so it's been, it left an opening for me and my group, obviously, to come in and figure out, hey, how do we solve a real problem that's out there? And there's not a lot of companies that are focused on offset printing. Everybody always tells me, digital's the future, digital's the future. And I believe it is. There's a spot for digital. It's just a tool in the toolbox of a printer, but high
Well,
volume print is not going away.
I was just reading something the other day and just reconfirmed what I always thought. You make more money on an offset press than you do off a digital press on every single job, and I don't care what anyone says, particularly when you own the equipment, right? With digital, you are always paying someone, you're always paying for something. It's a great little tool in the toolbox, as you mentioned, but there is still nothing better than offset, especially
But do
if you
you
got to
ever
run.
go
Well, I was gonna
ahead?
say if you got to run 8 lots, 5,000 sheets or 500 sheets, 8 up in one pass, you're done, like in
Yeah.
no time. And the setup today on offset presses with all the automation is 50 to 100 sheets, maybe.
Yep. No, I agree. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start up offset press supply is just because the way that the supplies are distributed in the US has risen the cost to offset print. It's not that the actual true costs have gone up a little bit but by having so many middlemen and marking those prices up, it really lets the digital runs creep into where offset is great at. You can run 500 sheets on an offset press all day long and make money over digital press, especially with a modern press. But if your input costs keep rising, that's what allows those digital presses to kind of come in. And I believe you never actually own a digital press because it has no value. Even if you spend $2 million on the press, you can never resell it unless that manufacturer is the one who's selling it for you. That's the issue with
Well,
that model.
no, that manufacturer's taking it back from you to give you another one because when you're into digital, and I don't care if you're with Xerox, HP, or Konica or any of them, once you're in, you're in. You can't, it's hard to get out of the cycle unless you come up with money because the machines aren't worth what they're worth at the end,
No,
right? At the
nope,
end of 4 years with HP, you always owe something on your lease anyways, which they offer then to, do something with it, part of it or all of it and roll it into another. And you can't get out. It's a life
that's like,
sentence,
it's
right?
it's like you're a zombie in California on the drugs. You can't get off. Yeah, you got to keep buying back in, because to get off and go somewhere else is very hard to check out of that motel.
Yeah. Question: you brought up Man Roland. What do you hear in the offset world about Man Roland and Langley?
I just hear that they have to do some restructuring. They've been not very strong worldwide. If you can't really output 100+ offset machines a year as a manufacturer, just the overhead that these businesses have, it's tough to maintain. They've made a couple more runs at it, but when you look at the equipment, and I mean, Man Roland is not the only manufacturer. A lot of these machines aren't really evolving, or they're only evolving. There's nothing new. They're the same. The 700, pretty much every press manufacturer, their Highline press is built off of a 1995 Man Roland 700, double size impression, double size transfer, 7 o'clock stack angle. I mean, they started it, but they haven't really been able to go anywhere.
Well, so if I, as a print owner today, I would never buy a Man Roland just out of fear and
Yeah, of
justified fear, right?
course.
I look at all offset or digital every year, or the manufacturers come out with the machines could do this. I don't know how much faster they have to go. I don't know
I
how
don't
much
know.
better the quality can be. Well, no, they don't have to go faster, but the
I think,
quality on all these machines is beautiful already. Like, I think every year when they come out with all these new improvements, it's all made up marketing nonsense.
well, they've got to have new stuff. And where I see advancement in print is because the operators never had to come up and really turn the ink keys by hand and figure out their own densities. And so as operators leave, skilled ones, a new one comes in, the software needs to take up that difference. And that's where you see the advancements with inline vision systems and inline color control. You really are getting a better press. And that's how you're able to come up to those 50 to 100 sheet make readies. It's all software driven, but the hardware, if you look at the hardware, it's not that different. I mean, Heidelberg has a 21,000 an hour machine. KBA, as you call them, Koenig and Bauer, has a 1,000 an hour machine.
Like, how much
The
faster are
Germans
they
are
going to
all,
make them?
yeah, the Germans are all about feeds and speeds, though. They want to be the highest guy on the chart. I always joke that, when we started, there was 102, then it went to 104, 105. Now we're at 106. I'm pretty sure by the time I'm 65, we'll be selling 108s or 109s. They just want to be one tick higher on that spreadsheet. Besides the high volume packaging business, I don't think speed is what most people buy machines for. They buy it for setup time, consistency, and the big one here is cost of ownership. Most of those high-end machines have $100,000 to $150,000 a year service fee on top of it, and that is where it's hard to run a commercial printing business when you're doing 20 million impressions a year, but you're spending 120 grand just on servicing that machine to get those 20 million impressions.
And you haven't talked about the service contracts on any of your other stuff needed to run, like the plate setters and the whatnots, right?
Well, but here comes something very important. Service is key. And today, finding service people is very difficult. And the manufacturers everybody has a problem with getting pressmen and getting people in the printing business, but no one's looked at the dire situation that the vendors are in. And, it's a real problem. Again, one of those things that I focused on, I've partnered up with the gentleman in Chicago, Capital Equipment Solutions, Paul Lange, and we're trying to figure out how to build a real service group, independent service group, to handle some of these real industry issues. Because again, Most printers don't have all this redundancy. And when the machines do go down, they can't wait 3 or 4 weeks for service. It's not acceptable. And the big manufacturers are supporting their West Rocks, their giant customers, and
Always.
they are very needy, those customers, because they have an immense amount of equipment and they run 24/7. And when you run a machine, it's a machine and it will break. And so, it is a real big issue, the servicing end of the business.
Aside from like the West Rocks and those companies, do you still have a lot of customers that run 24 hours?
Some customers, I would say most of those customers are in the packaging space though, except for your publication commercial web houses, which you'll still see that run round the clock. There's just so few of those that haven't been bought up that there is not many. What most of my customers are doing, because finding that third shift is so hard, they end up running 2 10-hour shifts and they forego 4 hours of the day. It kind of ensures too that the people that run third shift aren't messing everything up for the guy in first shift to spend half of his day kind of recatching up and fixing the problems that were caused at night when no one was there. And I mean, I know here where I am in the Midwest, finding someone to run a sheet fed offset press on third shift is a mighty feat these days.
Oh no, I asked that because even where I am and everywhere I've been, I'm noticing shops are running, one long shift or two longer shifts, and even on a 4-day week because they don't even have enough people to put out a single shift on 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, it's a definite issue, but I also believe that commercial printers, when I started, they only had sheet fed presses. Today every one of them has large format equipment. Although they've all got die cutting equipment. I mean, you've seen special effects equipment like MGI or Scodex. I mean, they've all adapted and tried to expand their product offering because they need to offer more. A lot of my customers are doing apparel now. When I started, none of them wanted to do apparel. And
Really?
looks
Eh?
like everybody these days wants their own embroidery machine and their own, shirt business, because they're just trying to figure out how to grab more of that customer's business.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty tough out there,
Well,
right?
I know you're in the t-shirt game now.
Yeah, well, I have my little store online, the Print Whisper shop where you
Perfect. Perfect.
where you can go out and get some nice quality tees, for different events, your fishing, your AI, your print events, your mental health. And yeah, it's all fun and it's a beautiful thing. But I don't own any equipment. I use somebody else's equipment.
That's
I don't
perfect.
really
That's
want
the
to
best
know
way to do it.
from
Support your printer.
listen, I think there's enough for everybody to support a little bit of everybody, right? Okay, so you created the your offset press supply online website. What's your plan? What's your goal? How do you see
Okay.
things rolling out?
Good question. Well, total world domination is my overall goal. But in a short step to get there, what I've really done was, I looked at real problems that could be solved in the offset business. I'm 44 years old. Every one of my peers was an average age of 60 or older, and there was nobody doing anything in this space. And the supply business in the US is all feet on the street done through distributors. And I just saw over and over again supply companies buying the cheapest products they can, putting a different label or a different name on it, calling the blanket Super Cool Supreme or whatever you want, and upcharging and upcharging. And what I thought is, how can we do this better? And so what I did is I went over to Europe, where Komori is very good at supplies. And the reason they're so good over there is because a company called ATC, they're about $130 million supply business that actually manufacture most of their own products, supplies Europe, Heidelberg, Komori, KBA, RMGT. They have all the supplies. And so I went over there and worked a deal with Bert, the owner of the company, to import them to the US and distribute them. And when I got back home, I was like, well, how am I going to distribute these? I'm not going to do it feet on the street. That is not efficient and it adds too much cost. And so what I decided to do was I formed a team of young men that were in the space, the web space, and we built a website, and there was no one-stop shop for printing supplies. And so after I built the website to distribute my ATC supplies, I went around to all the big names, like Nick Bruno at Harrison Bruno. I was at Tower Products, Victory Lamps, Print Guard, Applied Chem. I can go down the whole list. And every single meeting I had, the people said, you know what, we need to be on a platform where customers can get direct to us. We need to be able to cut some costs out of this business. And we need to have one portal for the product so that a printer doesn't have to go to 30 different websites, have all these different logins. And the big thing is most of these companies are not prepared. They don't have computer systems to do a true web style business. And so my team created a simple way for companies to get their products listed on my site. I really use the Amazon model. I take a small haircut off of every sale, and I allow people who actually manufacture their own products. There is no private labeling. There is no middleman. You either have to be the manufacturer or the sole distributor in North America to list the products. But then I have 100% transparency. You list your own products, you set the price, and you get the customer's names. If just like Amazon, if a customer wants to go around and go around me and go to that vendor, they can do that. I'm not stopping anybody. I just want the people in printing to know who's actually manufacturing, where these products are coming from, and to be able to get the support. Because as the skilled people leave this business, what's missing is the education, and these vendors all have the support. I mean, I've traveled the US and visited every one of my vendors. Every one of them has a very large support system. And so they just needed a good platform and a good way to offer printers a 21st century version of buying. And it is going to take a little bit. This is an old business. It moves slow. But in the next 5 to 10 years, I would think most of the people I deal with are going to be gone. They're going
Dead.
to be out of this business, and young people will move in. There is business here. Everybody says that we can't attract young people. We will attract young people because at the end of the day, we need them.
Yeah. So, first of all, I could not agree more with you on the old. And the biggest problem with the old, and I'm not getting any younger, so I'm not pretending, although when people I hang out with think I am younger, maybe because I stay out later. But as we get older, I'm finding that the old people are not giving up their seat in the house quick enough, right? And this is nothing. This is nothing bad against any of those people, but they're not. The seat's not given up, so it's not vacant for a long time, and that's what we really need: a few more vacant seats and bring people in. I think the industry is a great industry. It's a fun industry. You don't have to get dirty anymore because even the offset presses, everything is, encased in the inks and maybe some grease when you're greasing up the
Yeah.
machine. But it's not the same as it was. The folders, you're not getting the same paper cuts preset for the folds, and no folding paper to put in to adjust the thickness of, what's going around. But the old is we have to make some room. Everybody has to do their part, make some room. The knowledge, I hope more owners are putting computers in the back room by the presses. So when they have an offset issue, they're able to document it with AI, with the solution, so that it never leaves and anyone who's there could just pull up something. Or if they have someone who can scan, previous issues that they've had on paperwork to know what was done, because there are ways to set it up for the
Well,
future. I think people could also hire some of these older folks who are going to be exiting to come in as mentors and stay and help in certain areas. Different ways to slice it up. But
I
the age is definitely a big issue in our industry. And the other thing that I see is that, we're talking about needing younger people in the industry, but we're not making them feel welcome when they come in. That's not to
100%.
say
And that's
that's not to say there aren't a lot that are making them feel welcome, because I don't want phone calls after and people screaming at me. But I am talking as I see it, and I'm talking about the majority, not the minority. We need to make a bigger push and a bigger effort.
Well, I'm glad you brought up AI because we do have an AI tool that's coming, but it is not going to run your press and it's not going to do your homework. What our AI tool is going to do is bridge the gap between the operator manual, which is on a printing press, 1,500 to 2,000 pages, and the young guy who's running the feeder that's pulling his hair out because he keeps changing his air settings and the press keeps tripping. And so I have a gentleman named Gavin Lira. He's in the AI space, and he's developing an easy to use AI tool. And I'm going to be asking the press manufacturers for some more help with their operators manuals. But the ones that I have so far, it is working great. And I'm not spending much money on crazy marketing. But what I am doing is I am filming a lot of educational videos on how to run a press, because I work on my own cars all the time. I fix my own air conditioner. And the way I do everything is I go on YouTube and I watch someone who's done it before. I can read a manual, but it really doesn't connect with me. And so what I'm trying to do is bring that same thing to running a printing press. We've gate kept all this stuff for so long that we need to open that up. That's why we don't attract young people to run a press, because they don't like having to learn from a guy who's 60 years old that makes them go
With
search for half
attitude.
tone dots and puts ink on their back as they're walking around. They want to have a tool like they have in the rest of their life to say, why is my press tripping? Why am I ghosting? And AI is almost good enough to get there, but having the operator's manuals loaded in there is like a hot link right to your problem, gives you step-by-step results. And if I can input a video that also then shows the operator, hey, on this Heidelberg XL, this is how you reset the feeder. This is how you do your air settings. It's going to make him overcome those issues, and he's going to feel like he's finally in control. And I think that that's going to help attract younger people and just new people to the business, because we do have to bring people in. And, we also have to let these younger people know that this is a great industry. These jobs are high paying. Running a printing press is like flying an F-35 jet. You are really doing something important, and you can blow up a lot of stuff with that machine. It is a pretty exciting job, and you're in air conditioning. You go to one spot. You're not climbing around in an attic, digging through insulation, looking for cables. And there is a quick way to go from being a feeder to running a press these days. With the amount of vacancies that are opening up in the pressman world, it is not a 20-year job or feeding a press and throwing paper to get on that, driver's station.
No, it's nowhere near like it used to be. It used to be a feeder and used to wait like 10, 15 years with the hope of maybe you're going to get to the front of the press, right? Listen, I think a lot of this, when we talk about, the presses and the companies, a lot of this comes down to ownership, comes down to the leadership of the company and how they want to set things up, how they want to be portrayed. When people come in, I just went yesterday for whatever, I was doing an exercise, and I went through about 40 or 50 different websites of printers.
Okay.
And if anybody wants the list, I'll make the list. But these people should be taken out of business. When you go to the website and they have a 1985 Heidelberg with dust rolling in the screen or doing anything like that, that's a problem. And the problem is not that it's an 85-year-old press. It's that their websites look outdated, and anyone wanting to potentially go to that company that's young looks at the website and goes, I'm out. I have no
Yeah,
interest. I'm afraid to walk in the door. Right. So
I'm
I
with
think
you.
more owners and leadership have to do a better job of making sure on the outside that they're updated their social media platforms to show they're current. And when you get to the plant, that it's a well put together place. It's clean and it's a nice environment that people want to be in. I think back to, and you've probably seen those press rooms where boxes sit on boxes and empty ink cans sit like piled up, almost like that game until you pull one out and they all fall down, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Think,
It's really,
it's definitely, it's funny that in a industry where everybody goes to do their marketing material, we seem to be the worst at marketing. And you bring up social media. It's so funny. The people that engage with my new social media accounts for our new business are all younger. And you would think that printers would realize that if you want to attract younger people, you need to spend a little bit of money. I mean, the only job openings right now at Offset Press Supply I'm looking for influencers, somebody who runs a press that wants to record what he's doing, that wants to help educate. That is a paid position that I'm looking for because it just doesn't exist. And that's what we need. We need to start showing people what we're doing in a press room, whether it's running a folder or running a press or doing anything with inside that business. Young people are engaging in social media as much as we hate to say that all you do is you're a zombie with your phone. Well, start using that as your benefit. That's where
So,
your next employees are.
by the way, they're not only zombies with phones. There's plenty of older people that are zombies with phones. It's just the way it is. And the other thing, this that I've learned is the phones came to us, right? When a lot of these kids are born, the phones exist. They don't know any better. So we shouldn't even be talking to them the same way we talk to them about it because they don't know what we're talking about. It's like go talk to them about a fax machine and they're going to look at you sideways. So we kind of have this expectation of them, but we don't really think about where they are or where they come from a lot of times. We just, people are out to like, I don't know, criticize or knock them. That's why I don't even like when they're labeled, right? And I don't even like when anybody has a label. But I've said to many leadership, why don't you go around the shop and identify a couple of young people and engage with them to do your social media, to do your
Yes.
posting. Forget paying them a little more, which you should, but I'm sure most of them would be happy to do it for free to be able to go around and have that, spend a half an hour, whatever, couple hours a week going out, different things, sit with the team, come up with some plans, messaging that you want to put out there and engage with them that way. So two things happen. One, we empower the younger people to come in and they know that they're wanted, but at the same time, they're now engaging with the older people and everyone's having more of a fun time doing it instead of having like walls up or I don't do this, I do that. Um, the way the world is not going backwards. It's only going
No.
forwards. And a lot of these older people have to just own it and know it and not fight it so much,
Well, I think you
right?
see, I mean, I see it, at least in my world on my LinkedIn, I see nice videos from people like Wallace Carlson Printing, who hired a social media director, and they shoot cool videos on the press and have a nice way to engage with some humor, but also, with their capabilities. There's a gentleman named Brian Franz at Envision in Chicago. He does an excellent job of kind of bringing, customers into his world of showing them how packaging is made and why there is real value in it. Because, a lot of people want to treat printing as a commodity, but let's face it,
Well,
there's
okay.
real value for brands. There is real
So,
value.
well, actually, I want to mention first Bill Dorr of Hatteras. Those folks at that company, they do social media like it's nobody's business. They've got
Agreed.
all kinds of things going, and I comment all the time. And to Bill and the team, high five! Wow, right? They do a spectacular job. I lost my thought there. I almost had a brain fog. What did you say just before that?
I was talking about I also had a brain fog, but the main point we were going with here was
And
that
I'm not editing that out, by the way.
yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
fine. I mean, that's part of it. I'm thinking so far ahead that I can't remember what I said 2 minutes ago. So,
right.
what we're really trying to say is that there's definitely a way that we can use some old and some new to make these businesses better. And that attracting younger people is hitting them where they're watching. And, although, as you mentioned, the websites are looking old, but I don't think a lot of younger people are going around looking at websites. Maybe when they're seeing if they want to work for a place or they're
No,
researching something.
that's what I'm referring to because listen, funny enough, not so funny. I went to a company to do some sales training, and before I went there, I went to look at all the salespeople at their LinkedIn's. And when I went into the sales training, I basically said to them, "I don't think you guys are ready to, or girls, I don't think you're ready to sell." I said, "When you go see a customer, what's the first thing you do? You check out their website. You check out who the buyer is on LinkedIn. You check out all the people in case you know something." I said, "You don't think for 1 second that they do the same after you've called them?" I'll tell you that after you call them and they go to your LinkedIn page, they're never calling you back. And some of these people are arguing with me about the reason why they do or don't do what they do on their LinkedIn. And I'm like, dude, you're a moron. Put up your phone number so when someone's there, they can get you like that. Because we all have attention spans of peas. Like we just forgot what we were both talking about. I was even going to write it down and I didn't, but not that I would have been able to understand my writing because I would have wrote so fast. But we got to make things happen. It's that simple. So I want to go back to the parts. So I remember for parts, are you going to have
Yes.
all kinds of parts? Or are we talking just
So,
about like
it's
sleeves
very
or
hard. So printing presses have a myriad of parts. I'm going to say A, B, and C parts. Your A parts are your wearable parts, your feeder parts, your delivery parts. Those are things I'm going to have. I got some right next to me here. This is off of a Carnegie
a
Bauer, as
wheel?
you would say, a feeder wheel. I'm sure they charge $400 for this puppy, but I definitely am going to have parts. I've got a whole bunch in for testing. I'm sourcing them all around the world because it's a really big issue. It's so funny. For cars, there's a giant aftermarket. You want anything for your car, you can go buy it. For a printing press, nobody is doing it. And there is huge savings to be had. I mean, this little smoother bar that goes on a Komori is a very,
$800,
very
1200.
I think this from Komori is like 400 to 500. I'm probably going to be like two, because they did have to have somebody make all those for me. And I
Two,
still
two,
think,
and two, and
yep,
you make some good profit. I remember needing a part for one of the presses, and you call up the manufacturer, and we got the cost of it, like 4 grand for whatever.
yeah,
We got the delay for getting it. And I remember someone going to a machine shop who understood machining well, not me. And we had it for $740.
yeah, that's a very common tale. I mean, I think the real issue that I see is that the people who are buying the parts and pieces usually don't own the company. And so they think the cost of this stuff is irrelevant. And so, if you're a printing owner, I would employ you to go places like my website and double check and email me. So I've had a couple customers through some of my customers' peer groups reach out and say, hey, do you know where I can get this, Heidelberg belt from? And I'm able to source all this stuff. It just takes me a week or two to find it. And the first thing I do when I source something is I give it away for free to ensure that it works. Because what I've learned in life is that you can make something look like it's supposed to look, but does it work like it's supposed to work? And so what I do, and that's why I have all these samples laying around me, is that I kind of find the right people to test stuff out, and not just one time. I let them run it for a month or so, and then I'll employ it, put it on the website. But I've done a very good job of tracking down belts and hoses and parts
What about
so that
what a-
I can offer
what
them.
about motherboards?
So, hey,
Motherboards
this is
is you
funny.
you you
I
get
was just
you get killed on motherboards when you need to replace something.
So, it's the older equipment, especially, that runs off of that. A lot of stuff runs off digital drives today, luckily. But the board issue, it's only going to get worse because these manufacturers aren't stocking these boards. I do have sources where you can send your boards out to be rebuilt. I am working with a few people doing something that no one's ever done, which is dismantling and parting out printing equipment and having extra ones of these boards that I can have rebuilt so that when someone needs one, I have an exchange program. The issue with all these boards is that when yours is out, your press is down. So it's not like you're going to wait 4 weeks for this puppy to get fixed. And that's where the manufacturer gets you, because they know that you're down. And after you search for about 3 hours, you're at the point where you need to get that press up, and you just pay the piper. And if that board costs 10 grand, you're just going to spend the 10 grand because you don't have a choice. And they know that. And a lot of times with these companies that are private equities that have bought up these manufacturers, that is where they're taking advantage of the people. They're taking those parts and they're 4 or 5xing them because they know that they're not selling new product anymore. So they have no qualms of overcharging until the point where that printer says uncle, and he has to go out and buy a new press, or he goes out and moves in a
Well, they,
different direction.
right. Then the OEMs have to know that they're not coming back to you.
No,
You know,
no, and that,
and there's a lot of even on digital, like HP and Xerox people where they've had the roost for a while, and now companies are trying to find ways to save up some money and get out of the lease at the end of the lease and not go back and make different leases. I mean, I've been running a whole couple, it's not even good English, but I've been posting a couple articles on manufacturer leases or
I've
restructuring
seen it.
leases.
Seen it.
First of all, everyone has to understand something out there. I'm a printer. So everything I do is on behalf of, and all information is for the printer. Nothing against the people that work at the OEMs, but the OEMs, nobody has skin in the game. And I keep saying that. It's the printer that puts the skin in the game. So for me, it's important that, the printers is educated as much as possible in all different scenarios to be able to make decisions and decisions that they'll have to live with. But as long as they know what they're getting into, there's no surprises, and
Well,
there's a lot of surprises out there with contracts and everything,
especially in
and the
North America.
manufacturers.
In North America, our digital model is 100% click based. Everything's included. When you go to Europe, that's not how they're sold. And I think that it would be wise for the printers to figure out how to take more control of that supply chain. And, to future proof my business, I also own digital press supply. So I do foresee a future where the printers wisen up and they don't let the digital manufacturers control that whole stream, because all you're doing is guaranteeing that, like we just said earlier, that you're married to that box the rest of your life. And the only way you're going to get out is if you take 100% write off, or if you roll into their next supermodel. They cut your service charge in half for 2 years, and then the following 2 years it doubles up. It's a repeating process. And
You're
maybe not
you're at
tomorrow
the
or the
mercy.
next day, but that will change because the actual print owner is going to change that. And there is machines other than, the big dogs out there that are allowing people to buy their own ink. And that's what inkjet is. Inkjet is not a click. Inkjet is a usage-based model. Yes, you have to buy all your ink from the same person, but I also think that'll change one day.
It all has to change because it doesn't really work, right? And the print owners have to find, I won't say cheaper, but equipment that better suits them for what they need at a price that's more affordable. There is a cost to producing all of this stuff, so there is a cost when you buy it. But when you see some of the markups made or the amount of money made, I don't understand. Like, I have a question. Maybe you could help me out. Fuji makes a digital press. They sell it to Xerox and they sell it to Sharp. How is everybody just not going to Fuji? How could Xerox make it better? And then I hear from others, if they're buying from Fuji, they're getting better prices and better clicks because it's from the. How could a manufacturer not be better than any distributor at any level?
That whole model has always confused me. I always think it's distribution, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of it has to do with servicing. And I have a lot of my customers who will deal with a dealer of, let's just say, Konica Minolta rather than Konica Minolta because they have a better service platform. And I've also heard the same thing where, I got a better price. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you get a better price from a distributor than you can't right from the actual manufacturers? I don't understand that. And, Fuji's done a pretty good job in the inkjet space with their inkjet heads, but they've done not a very good job of supporting that product. And I think you saw a couple months ago, they said that they are ending that J press model. So no more inkjet for Fuji. They're going back to toner. And, at the end of the day, I think what I've learned from the digital space is that, toner is not dead. And depending on what you're printing, you also don't need these giant sheets. If you're printing 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, or you're printing books, it's much better to have a farm of toner machines than it is to have one giant inkjet press. You have redundancy, your costs are less. And, these big presses come with big price tags, big problems. And,
If you
it's
could have
not
two
all
half
fun and
size,
games in the inkjet
if
world.
you right, but if you have two half sizes, you could have two machines and you're not stuck if one goes down.
Correct.
Right?
100%. You have
That's
redundancy.
I remember when the Indigo came out, they used to have two, one for running and one for parts. And then there was
Yeah.
always a whole bunch of, a bunch of different companies out there kind of doing like that. Are you
Indigo.
are you do you inventory anything yourself?
Yes. So I inventory all the ATC products here in New Berlin, Wisconsin. I have a customer named Imperial Lithographing, Jason Sturmowski. He owns a fulfillment business as well, a giant building. I don't know, it's probably 120,000 square feet. And there's a whole team in there where I probably have about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet right now, a few $100,000 worth of supplies. And that's where all our supplies come from. And I did something completely new in the web world where my designers wanted to kill me, but I don't charge shipping. I don't want to do your shipping because guess what? Printers are the best logistics companies ever. They ship
So they pick it, you're
tons
having
and
them pick it up?
tons and tons of material. Yes, I all of my vendors give printers 3 choices. The first choice is when you sign up for the website, you put your own UPS number in and your own FedEx number in there. So if anything you're purchasing comes in a box, when you check out, you're prompted. It says, hey, should I use your UPS number or should I use your FedEx number? And what do you want? Next day, ground, so that you're able to use all of your own discounts. The second option
Love
is
it. Love
LTL.
it.
Most of the stuff that you're buying is on a skid. Again, printing companies ship billions of tons of paper around. They have the best rates and the best logistics system. So I allow you to use your own LTL. So if you order from Applied Chemistries in Massachusetts, you order a drum of his wash, you're going to get an email right after you order. It's going to say, Mr. Customer, your skid is ready. It's 600 pounds. Here's the address. And all you have to do is send your bill of lading number and your company can go pick up that. And instead of us charging you $175 to ship a skid, I'm sure most printers are more in that $100 range. And so the third option is pickup. Every vendor I have allows for your own personal pickup. And so if you're in the Midwest, my company works great because we're right outside Milwaukee and you can send your own truck. And so my idea of this business, again, I'm just copying Amazon. I'm not a rocket scientist. I want to be able to have enough distribution areas throughout the US and North America where if you're a printer in a major metropolitan area, I'm within an hour and a half, I have a supply depot, because cutting shipping out of the consumable game is really the last way to save. The blankets aren't going to be 50% ever. The chemicals aren't coming down. Everything is imported. We make very, very little chemistry and we make very little items that go in your printing press here in the United States. Most of these products are imported. And so the only way that where there's real savings left is on the distribution model. And so once I can get enough buyers going, all of my vendors have promised me that once we have the model built and we have the data to support it, we'll know what areas are using what amount of materials and we'll be able to stock those and be ahead of the game
And
so that we can fulfill all of the needs without having to use endless amounts of LTL and high cost shipping. You know, this is probably a couple of years away. I'm hoping I get faster adaption and we can do it quicker, but I'm trying to have a model where every major metropolitan printing market has a distribution site within an hour, hour and a half of a printer, because every printer has a truck.
I wish Uline would do the same thing. Because
Yeah,
Uline has
wow.
thousands and thousands of products, but they get you on the shipping. But they always throw in a gift, so I guess it's okay.
Wow.
No, first of all, highly commendable because a lot of companies make their money on the shipping, right?
Percent. That's what the
And
guys that designed my website said. I'm the only guy that built a website that cut shipping out of the model. There's millions of dollars to be
well,
made there, but people aren't going to buy from me. And I wouldn't buy from me if I knew. That's what I always hear. Clark, I bought, a set of blanket washcloths and I paid more for the shipping than I did for the dang blanket washcloths. That nobody wins then.
and that doesn't make sense, right? No, wow. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool.
But hey,
Used
Warren,
equipment.
I'm glad you brought up Uline. I got something for you. Center pull towels. Every printer goes through tons of these, right? I got a whole section on
Tons.
my website where I'm less than Uline. So I have a brilliant guy in my distribution facility. His name is Miguel. He goes to the area where these towels are made, and these are called seconds. This is where they don't have good people to run these machines either, and they're throwing away tons of these. So what Miguel does, he gets these towels at Uline. You're paying $20. These come in a fancy box that you never open, right? So you throw the damn thing away. If you go on my website, you got to buy a skid of them, but these towels
Oh,
are
wow.
$6.50 a roll. You get buy
Hey,
180 rolls, but you can save a lot. And as a printer, we aren't in a Ferrari dealership. We don't need the perfect looking thing. We just need towels
by,
to clean up our mess.
by the way, that's $1,080. It's nothing.
Yeah, it is.
for
It is.
and you're going to use the rules. By the
You're
way,
going to use
I
them.
think people no, I think that's great because even for smaller shops that go through a lot of rags and rules and whatever, if you sit down and you look at it, you could save 300 here, 500 there. When you're a smaller company not making much, if you could find 5, 8, 10, 25, $30,000 of savings, that's easy money at the end of the year for your pocket without even printing anything.
Well, the beauty of these towels is that even if you're not a printer and you're in the car paint or you're in any business what's dirty that you're actually doing work, you're using towels like this. Another thing I got
Yeah,
this less than Uline, shrink wrap. I got the best source of shrink wrap. I buy direct from the guys that are making it. And if you go on my website, you'll see that even if you're the best Uline customer, I'm 30% less on 18-inch rolls and the giant 20-inch rolls that go in that sweet machine that spins around and does it automatically. I'm 30% less on those rolls. And so that's what
that's
I did. I went into my printers and saw what their problems were. And when I saw these machines running, I said, hey, where are you getting these, this shrink wrap? And the guys are all saying, I'm getting it from Uline. So I said, what do you pay? $6 for one roll of shrink wrap? I'm $80 for one roll of shrink wrap. So, I mean, like you just said, you're using a skid of that a month. You're talking about real savings. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we save money? And again, all of my products, you pay your own shipping. And so if you're buying other products from my site, you're already sending a truck. I put everything on one skid, wrap it up tight,
work too.
and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying. I mean, I was busy before I started my own business. I am literally busy from morning till night every day
No,
trying to figure out
and
parts, savings, and helping printers. There is no startups in offset business. That was the big surprise when I launched. Everyone's like, I never even heard of an offset startup. Well, there's real savings made. Everybody else, like you said, they're hanging on too long and they're just kind of living off of this gravy train thinking that no one's going to come in and disrupt.
I don't even think they're thinking no one's going to come in and disrupt them. I just don't think they're thinking, right? And with what you're talking in savings, I think more owners have to get involved with their teams, especially if they're medium-sized companies and larger,
100%.
to get in with the purchasing, because I've dealt with a lot of different purchasers, and a lot of purchasers do a good job, but they don't do a great job.
Well,
Or
right in front of me, I'm looking at one giant spreadsheet. And this morning I had another customer who I sourced some parts for that realized, hey, I should be running what I'm buying past Clark, even my shrink wrap and paper towels, because if
well,
he
no,
has a
so
way to save us some money,
shrink wrap was always a hot topic. There
it,
was all
be-
kinds of people always coming in to sell shrink wrap, and the deals were like from here to here.
yep.
Like, so, who
You
knows
just,
where it comes from? Who knows
with
if
my
it's
site, just
sticks?
like anybody else's, the more volume, everything's based on volume. So I really have very few onesie twosies. You can buy those paper towels for $8.50 a roll, but you're only going to get 6 of them. So you might as well buy the whole skid of 180. Your truck's going to be there to pick up your blanket washers, your cloth, your parts. You might as well
If
just
you
grab
send
that skid.
right, and if you send the truck for the full skid of the shrink wrap rolls or the washcloths, you're just averaging down on your price.
Correct.
You're spending less money, but you're going to spend the money anyways, right?
And what I'm doing
Sometimes they don't want to lay it out completely because they think they're saving, but they're not. You still spend.
well, so for people like that, for my press blanket washcloths, what I do is I end up signing people up to a subscription because I don't want to go back and forth on price. I want to make one price, make it good for a year. We're both taking some risk. I'm taking risk that tariffs are going to go up or something crazy is going to happen. They're taking a risk that they're partnering with me. But then what I do is we come up with their average, what they're using, and I send you 3 months supply. So you only have one shipment, but you get 3 months worth of your product. And I just charge you every month down. That way, you have all of it on site. If you end up getting super busy and you need them, you have it there. But B, we're only doing one shipment. It's not like every month you're getting that UPS or that FedEx charge reoccurring. So I'm entrusting that you're going to use them. Obviously, I'm taking risks, but I'm willing to
Be
take the
careful
risk.
with those risks.
Well, they're they're educated risks. I'm not taking risks with everybody,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I know certain partners of mine, especially guys that I've called on for the last 20 years. I know which ones I can trust. And as you know, the amount of printing companies that's in the US is is not a huge number. And so it's not like I'm dealing with hundreds of thousands of people.
No, for
There's
sure.
maybe 1,000 companies in the US that even fall into my range. And no, I'd be happy dealing with the top 100, 150. Everything I sell is premium. I have none of my stuff, except for my paper towel, is cost
Right.
based items. I have all premium stuff. If you go on my site, like, everybody uses tower products in our business. You can go on my site and buy those same exact tower products, and you're getting it right from Tower. There's no, there's no mix up there, and they have the right servicing. So I mean, like, you're very transparent business that I've built, and just trying to figure out a way to be there for the next 20 years for these printers and build something that is sustainable and will help bring their buying into the 21st century.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think it's a great idea. There is nothing else out there like it. And I think it'll be even better when you have as many products on there for presses as Uline has for warehouses,
Well,
right? But
I
that
will.
that'll be great. But
I
that'll be
will.
cool.
I will. I need the help
Cool.
from the printers, though. If you own a printing company and you run offset equipment and you need products, or you feel that there's something there that you should be able to buy, send me a line. All my contact is available. You can go to my website, offsetpresssupply.com. You can click the button, submit it. On there too, you're going to find services. So like we said, Baldwin is going under, and a lot of my customers are looking for service. I am building up a service network.
Yeah.
I teamed up with Victory USA, which is quartz lamps, guys named Justin Register and Dan Cunningham. They are committed to the UV business. We have UV bulbs for every press. We have IR bulbs for every press, and we're gearing up to service and support UV systems for the customers in the US. And so, what I really need is the backing of the printers, to kind of the
Well,
owners of the
so
printing companies.
I would say this: if you're a printer and you're not calling Offset Press Supply to get a price to look what they have to introduce yourself to them, you're leaving money on the table, and
100%.
probably not the smartest thing you could do.
100%. And,
Uh,
the guys in your plant, they're overtaxed. And as you know, there's less guys doing more work. And so that's why it is easy for them sometimes just to take the easy route and pay and not figure
yeah,
out,
listen,
where the
it's
money's
just, if
going.
you're an owner listening, get on it, look into it, and save yourself some money.
Yeah.
Okay, that hour went around real quick, so we're gonna call it
Perfect.
because I got 3 other appointments lined up here to record.
Excellent.
But first of all, huge thank you, and thank you for bringing this out to everyone's attention, because I think it's a great opportunity for people to just look at their business in a different way. And as you grow, let's do this again, because I want to hear more about what's coming in and how it's growing, and I want to know that printers are waking up and doing things a little differently than they used to do, because they
All
didn't do
right.
them
Well, hey,
always
I
the
really
best way.
appreciate it, Warren. Always a pleasure. And we'll definitely see each other again soon, my man.
Sounds good. Everybody listening, thank you as always for listening. I hope you got something good out of this episode. If you didn't, that would be awfully strange. So give me a call and let me know. Otherwise, keep listening in, and I'll keep bringing you good topics. Cheers.